Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Today I want to give you 8 tips on how to start to talk about race with your multiracial child and why it's so important. I've got my notes here, so you might see me looking down a little bit. And I also want to share a little bit about my story and how all of this began. So I've had a lot of different situations. I have 4 biracial little girls, and one of the biggest situations that come to mind is when my youngest was about 2 and the twins were like 9 months. I was renting at a place and I thought it was a very diverse area. The property manager that actually came out to my house, she was a Black woman. I am white. My children are mixed with Black and white. And in this situation, I had just a regular inspection at my rental. She came through, she made sure everything was in working order. Everything seemed totally fine. She left, nothing, no big deal. Well, within a few days, I actually got a letter in the mail saying that if I did not close my daycare, that I would be evicted. And I had no idea what the letter was referring to. I had absolutely no clue. And I know I have a lot of toys. She saw 3 kids running around, and I didn't have my 4th at that time. But me being a white woman, my children are a different skin tone, different hair texture. You guys know the deal, right? And I was like, oh my God, she totally thinks I'm not the mother. And this kind of hit me out of nowhere. And maybe you guys have had these situations where you're out and about, and a common one I always hear is, are those your kids? And now with me having 4 kids, that is what I always get. Are those your kids? Are all of them yours? Are they all sisters? Do they have the same father? And sometimes it's one person that asks all those exact same questions. And it's like, I answered it with the first question you asked, not that it was any of your business, right? So I want to say how you react in that moment is huge. It totally plays out everything that your children are learning, what they're watching, how you react, what you do, what steps you take forward from there. So going back to the situation with the property manager, I actually filed complaint with the state. We went to court about it, and it weighed heavy on my heart. It takes a lot to raise kids, and you never want to be told that you look like you're not the mom. Like, I birthed these children. You guys know the deal. You know how that feels. You've probably had this situation happen to you. So yeah, I was drained. My children took an effect with that because I had to drop them off at a friend's house while I go to these different meetings and court. And, it was racial prejudice, discrimination, all of those different things. And of course, it's hard to fight those cases. And in the end, it got me nowhere because people want to minimize what is happening. And that is not right. That is not right for our children. They just took the case and pretty much dropped it because there's no actual proof that that is what she was thinking in the reason why she sent that letter. So that's what brings me here today and why I want to talk to you about why it's so important to talk to your children about race. Can you imagine my little girl sitting there and seeing me go through that and internalizing that and wondering why mommy's so upset and so frustrated? And although I didn't do it right in front of her, there were pieces that these little girls felt that I was going through at the time. And I didn't have support. I didn't have a community. I had nobody to talk to about it that would actually understand what I was going through. Not even the person where I filed the case. It's such a gray area that there was nothing that could be done. And that's devastating. So that's why we're here today. We want to make a difference. And let's get into these 8 tips on how to talk to your kids about race and why it is so important. So tip number 1 is to educate yourself first. Please, please, please do everything in your power to educate yourself. If you haven't started yet, start right now. Everything that we've learned in grade school, middle school, high school, depending on your age, way back when, was taught by a white, privileged, biased system. Like the people that wrote our textbooks, the people that educated us, the people that wrote history were white males, essentially. And those are the people that are hiding the story. They're hiding the truth, how slavery really happened and what went down. Our textbooks didn't contain the black person's viewpoint on slavery and what happened. And of course, the white male is going to protect himself in writing these history books that we learned as children. So please, you need to rewrite history and educate yourself and find Black people that have the correct viewpoint and can educate yourself. And find stuff that's already out there. I'm not telling you to go to a friend who is Black and ask them all these questions because they're tired. This is exhausting for Black people. They should not have to keep trying to tell stuff that they've been trying to tell us for 20 years. And now we are just opening up to listen to them. That is not fair to them. You need to go do that research, the education. It's already out there. There's blogs, there's videos, there's resources. Educate yourself now. All right, so my second tip is to start young with your children. Start now. Depending on what your children's age is now, it's never too late to start. You can start today. And by that, I mean talking to them, having different things in your house, diversity, books, and stuff I'm going to get into in a little bit. But just know there was a study done that shows babies at the age of 3 months already identify with race. They can already tell what race the person is in front of them, which is crazy because when I think back, my children don't see themselves in me. I am white. They're biracial. So although they see me, they are seeing a white person. They're not seeing themselves, which actually brings me to my third tip, which is representation matters. And if you're on my Instagram, you probably see this all the time. I've actually got a little section just all about representation matters. They don't see themselves when they look at me, and that's sad, but at the same time, that's beautiful because they are unique and they are special. So you need to surround your environment, your schools, your neighborhood, in your house. You need to go through it and make sure you've got diverse books and diverse dolls, things to play with. When they're watching YouTube Kids, make sure those videos are diverse and not just only white kids running around, because representation really matters. Your children need to see people that look like them. That is how they build their identity, their sense of belonging, and they don't feel like they are an outcast because they're actually seeing people that look like them. That is so, so important. All right, so number 4, stop colorblindness. And I know some of you maybe don't want to hear this. We cannot ignore the fact that we are different skin tones. There are differences us, and that is something to be beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. There is no reason to ignore the fact that some people are dark skinned, some people are light skinned, some people are white. Stop raising your children to be in a colorblind society, because if anybody wants to teach your children about race, let it be you. Let it be the parent. Because I guarantee you, a multiracial child is going to face discrimination, prejudice, stereotypes in this world. There is no way around it. And as minor as you feel like that little scenario is, it is huge for them. It makes a difference for them. And I know this relates a lot to our white privilege. We never had to deal with these things before. We have lived in this box, this world that has given us everything. We have gotten away with everything. White privilege is a problem, and it's the reason why people still want to be colorblind to the way things are. And it's not fair to our kids. One day you're going to have to let go of that little kid's hand. They're going to go out in the world, and unfortunately, bad things happen. And it's not fair to that child that you did not educate them that there are different skin tones and people react different ways based on someone's skin tone. And as crazy as that is, that can lead to death, and it has led to death. We see it in the news every single day. That's what all these Black Lives Matter marches and everything going on is about. And if you continue to raise your children to be colorblind, it's just going to get worse. It's going to be so bad for your child. You have to know that it is so important to tell them that they are different, they are unique, but there are people in this world that are just evil and will judge them based on their skin tone. This is just parenting. Yes, parenting is hard, but parenting a multiracial child is even harder. We did not grow up with these fears in our heart that our child's going to walk out the door and possibly face something that could lead to their death. Like, we did not have to deal with that growing up. And you can't ignore the fact that that is how the world is today. Protect your child by teaching them the correct things they need to know about being a different skin tone. All right, so tip number 5, seek out diversity. You want to make diversity like the norm for them. Just going back to representation matters. Make sure their books have children of different colors, and it just doesn't have to be biracial. It can be all different cultures. Celebrate all different cultures in your life. Let your child know that they have different cultures in them, and celebrate those different holidays, those different events and times of the year. Get together with family. You need to get out and make sure you're reaching out to both sides of the family. Even if, things maybe didn't work out with their dad or their mother, or maybe you're a grandparent raising the child, then it's so important to keep those connections with the different family members and make sure that you are seeking out diversity, making sure the schools, I know for me, sure, ratings are great. Like, yeah, I would love my child to be out of 9 to 10, 10 out of 10 school zone. But what comes first for me is diversity. Like, that school needs to be diverse. My children need to see people of their skin tone and a variety of skin tone for me to be able to choose that school or that neighborhood. It cannot just be, oh, this is an amazing school, my child's going to be so smart, because book smart has nothing to do with surviving in the world when you are a multiracial child or a person of a different skin tone. All right, so number 6, use the resources that are out there. There are so many things that are just at your fingertips. Go to the library, go online, research it, articles, blogs, videos, podcasts. There's just so many things right at our fingertips. Different communities, Facebook groups, Instagram accounts, all of this stuff is at our fingertips because technology is so great these days. That is all right there. So make sure you're implementing all of these things with the resources that are right here at your fingertips. All right, so number 7 is I want you to commit to this. This affects all generations, like not just your child, but the next generation, because I'm white, my children are multiracial. Every generation here on is going to be multiracial. There is no way to get around that. We need to commit to this, make sure we are doing it right with this generation, and ensuring that our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth, all have this protection in the world that we do have power. I know it's hard to say. The world is racist, and we can't change that. Like, a lot of people that I interviewed and Christina interviewed, and thank you guys for interviewing with us. I know a lot of you all said that we can't stop racism, and there's nothing we can do about that. But there are things we can do to help it. Take your little pebble and throw it into that big stream, because the more little pebbles that we have and the more pebbles that everybody is throwing out there in support of change it's going to make a difference, and it's going to help every generation they're out. So commit to this and make sure this is in your everyday life and an everyday part of your children's lives. All right, so my final tip is to know that your child is going to internalize this conversation about race, what you're doing about race, and how you're integrating diversity and representation matters and all of these things. Your child is going to internalize that maybe differently than how you are putting it out to them. So sure, a lot of times we have the best interests for our children. We are trying to give them the knowledge, the understanding to be able to thrive in this world, in today's society. But you also need to hear from them too. Hear from them how they are internalizing and in how they hear what you're saying. Have them reflect back to you in what you just told them. Well, honey, what did you hear from that book? And what was the struggle? And how did the little girl get past that struggle? And how do you see that relating to your life? Do you see yourself in that little girl in that book that we just read? Or another thing to do is kind of along the lines of play therapy, is to give your child some dolls and play with them. Sit down and play with them, spend some time with them. You know, it doesn't always have to be a direct conversation about race. You can sit there with dolls and just play out different scenarios. Your children are listening. They hear it. Every time I'm out and about and someone says, "Are those your kids?" My children hear that. They see how I react. Make sure you are saying the right thing, and make sure you are saying what gives them the power back to them. Don't just let these stereotypes, these prejudice, these racial discrimination situations slide by. Your child is listening, they're seeing, they're internalizing it, whether you see it or not. It's hard to know exactly what they're thinking, especially if they recognize this at 3 months, which is what research shows. They've already picked up all this stuff depending on the age of your child. They've already seen things happen when they were 1, 2, 3. And especially if they go to a school or a daycare, you can't protect them all the time. You don't know what happened there, and maybe they're not coming home and telling you. And don't let that first situation be the first time that you're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to sit down and have a conversation about race with my child." Don't let that significant event be the first time that you're like already 10 steps back. You've already missed the mark. It's so important to start today and make a difference today. Give them the knowledge, give your children the power. Make them in control of the situation when these happen. So, as always, I hope you guys found these tips helpful. Let me know in the comments below. How do you approach this topic of race? You know, it's okay to be honest. There's a lot of things we need to unlearn. Even myself, every day, I work on unlearning the things that we were taught and were instilled in our life 24/7. It was like pushed down our throat that white privilege, you get away with everything, you get everything. And it's super sad that that's the way the world is, but we can make a difference. We can change, and we have to change for our children. These are our kids. I know you want the best for them. I know you are willing to commit to this process and make these changes. So, and then also I want to let you guys know, Thursday, August the 16th, Thursday, August the 12th, and I'll put a link down below so you guys can actually apply. We are holding our free live training for how to parent your multiracial child. We're going to give you a whole bunch of tips, both hair care and society. So there's 2 pieces, 2 main parts to what our children need in nurturing them and making sure they love themselves, and you're raising them to be strong multiracial children. So in that training, you're going to learn our 3-part framework for doing that. We're so excited to share that. We've never done anything like that before. So we're just excited. You guys can use the link in my bio to apply if you're on Instagram. If this is running on Facebook, we'll leave the link in the comments, things like that. So you can also always DM myself or Christina, and we will get the information to you because we want to see everybody there. We know you guys are ready to commit to this process and building our strong, beautiful, multiracial children. So, all right, as always, love you guys and hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.